Liam Lawson, congratulations. On behalf of all the people at Toyota Racing Series, I want to say well done for your next step, which is now Formula 2. If you can, just briefly tell us the ins and outs of how that came about.
Thank you very much, first of all. It's very, very exciting for me. I think after 2 years of Formula 3, it was just, I guess, the right time. I remember after my first year, I was seeing a couple of guys step into F2, and it was something that I wanted to do. But I'm glad now to have definitely done that second year. I think it's helped a lot. I've definitely learned a lot more in that second year than I did in that first year. I progressed a lot more. So I definitely feel like now is the better time to move into F2, and I feel ready.
And how about last year? Some good results. I mean, you always like to win, but you can't win everything. How did you look at 2020 as a season?
I mean, on paper, it's not amazing. And it's not definitely, we had the potential to easily win this championship if we had mechanical issues out of our control, yes. But I think even with those issues, we lost too many points because of issues that just didn't need to happen. So I think overall it could have been a lot better. But I think we showed we had really, really good pace most of the time. It was just a few of those little mistakes that we made, whether it was set up or before the races. I feel like we gambled a little bit too much on stuff that we didn't need to. So I think that lost us out a lot more than what it gained us. So yeah, in the end, the result's not amazing, but luckily for me, the only important thing for me to do is basically prove to Red Bull that I'm doing a good enough job, and luckily they saw that.
Yeah, and how big a change do you think FIA F3 to F2 will be for you? You've seen what Yuki's done, and obviously it's helped his career. You guys must know each other pretty well now, having raced against each other and, of course, being part of the junior scene. What are your hopes and what are your thoughts going into F2?
Even though, I mean, the car doesn't look too dissimilar, like it definitely looks different, but it's not, a radical change. It's not like going from F2 to F1 or anything like that, but it is a lot different. So overall lap time wise, it's a few seconds faster, nothing crazy. But the way it delivers that lap time is a lot different. You have to drive the car completely different to what you do in Formula 3. So the test that we had in Bahrain was a massive learning curve. The power is a lot more. With the turbo as well, it comes in a lot differently. So you've got to be real careful about how you pick up the throttle, especially in race runs when you're trying to look after the tires. The braking with carbon brakes is a lot different. The braking performance is really, really good, which is really cool. And then the weight as well is a lot more weight. So you can feel that when you're driving, especially you go through high speed corners and there's quite a lot of kickback through the wheel. It fights you quite a lot. Especially with the bigger rims as well, adding more weight. So physically it's a bit harder to drive, and it is a lot different, but it's a pretty cool car.
I get the impression Helmut likes to push you because when you first started with Red Bull, he gave you 2 championships to work in, and now you're doing the same again. DTM, very exciting. What's your thoughts on that, doing a bit of sports car racing?
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. Really out of the blue. I didn't see it coming at all. So I'm super excited to race in a championship like this. It's like, I guess, arguably the Formula 1 of GT racing. It's a massive championship in Europe, at least. So when I did F4, we raced alongside DTM as a sport class. So I remember seeing how much of a big championship was then. So I think it's a really, really good opportunity for me. Definitely one that's going to take a lot to get used to. And it's hard to put an expectation on DTM this year until I know where I am after the testing. So for now, we'll do the first couple of tests, see where we are. By then I would have done F2 before that. So I'll know at least what track I'm on with F2. And it'll be about learning, how to drive a GT car fast. I've only driven one time in New Zealand. So it's going to be a lot different.
So the other thing is, obviously, no one's expecting you to start going winning the DTM championship. But what will be interesting is you are paired up with another Red Bull driver and a former Formula 1 driver in Albon. What do you think of that as, a good starting point in DTM to be able to judge both yourself and to have Red Bull judge you against one of their Formula 1 drivers?
Yeah, it's really, really exciting for me. Obviously, Alex has been in Formula 1 and that's where I want to go eventually. So To have a driver that's been there, he's experienced not only how tough it is on track, but also off track. I think it'll be really good to learn as much as I can off him, obviously depending on how much he's willing to share. But no, it's a good opportunity to put myself up against someone who's going to be very, very quick, who's had a lot more experience. So I think it's a big bonus for me.
I know how much you love being part of Red Bull. I remember when you got the opportunity, this was your dream come true. But they're a tough team. We've seen now with Gasly and with Kvyat and everybody else, they don't suffer fools and they don't suffer non-results, as we saw with Verstappen, Albon losing that seat. So it's still a tough environment, but is it one you feel like you're growing and enjoying?
Yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely the team for me to, it's like you said, it's one that I've always wanted to be with. So to be with them is still incredible. And I think they're the most effective program out of all the junior programs. They have 4 seats in F1, and they are, as much as it is tough, they're the only sort of junior program that's constantly putting in drivers and bringing them out. So at the end of the day, I don't want to be in Formula One if I'm not good enough to be a part of Red Bull. That means I'm not, I don't want to be there to not win. So that's the only reason we're there. So I think in that sense, they're the perfect team for me.
And going back to Formula 2, do you see that, or do you feel like that in order to be ready to represent Red Bull at the highest level, you need a season, maybe 2 seasons in F2 to kind of, bed yourself in? Because that seems to be the norm.
Yeah, it's funny. You see a lot of guys, because F2 is like, it's the last step, after this is only F1, and it's so hard to get there that you see quite often guys spending, 6-7 seasons in F2, sometimes as rare as it is. So I think it depends on how this year goes. Honestly, it depends on how quickly I can adapt to the car. Obviously, Formula One's a lot different. So in terms of the way you drive this car, it's not really that similar. So I don't think it's not going to take 2 years of learning the car. It's more the other stuff, the off-track stuff, how I am with the team and being able to take control of what I want with the car and stuff like that. There's a lot more that adds up to it, and I think that will decide really whether I'll get the F1 seat or not.
As a bit of an inspiration to me, we've all been locked down in our houses here around the world. I'm in the States. But when I look at your year, despite a global pandemic, you're still going 1,000 miles an hour since I met you, or since you were 17 and started this trip with Red Bull. It's been nonstop. How tough has it been for you to train, to work, to race in one of the toughest times that the world has ever seen?
Yeah, well, last year was certainly a weird season. Obviously, at the start of the year, we all got ready for the first round, and then it all got called off, and I went home back to New Zealand. And that was, in the off season, it's not so bad. This time of year, it's okay. But I remember last year, it was a bit of a weird feeling because we were meant to be racing. We didn't know when we were going to start racing. And when you're in New Zealand, you feel so disconnected from the rest of the world. So it's a strange feeling of seeing everybody else obviously over in Europe, and the training keeps up and everything like that. It's okay, but it's it's hard to keep in contact with people because the time zone's opposite. But when we did eventually get into things, the season was obviously completely compact into 11 weeks, so extremely full on. And then when the season stops, it's a weird feeling. You're just training. Now I've been just training without any driving, so it's a bit all over the place, but to be honest, I think I've been okay with it so far.
And do you think, I know that the schedules have changed for F2, so you're not on F1's calendar the whole time now, so you've got your own events, but will you still get a chance to be with Red Bull and the F1 team and learn when you're not racing there?
Well, that was one of the disappointing things about last year, was because of obviously with COVID, we weren't allowed to go into the F1 paddock so much. We weren't allowed to go into the garage. So it depends on how that is this year. How I imagine it'll be very similar to last year. So all the learning from the F1 side of things will be done probably back at the workshop at the factory, and not so much on track, which is a shame because it is really cool. I had a couple of opportunities to have a headset on and listen to at the time it was Max and Pierre, and when they were driving around, and that was a pretty cool opportunity. So it'd be cool to have more of that this year. Just depends on how COVID is.
And what about your setup at F2? You with High Tech? What are they, people and so on? Because obviously you've worked with them before.
Yeah, so the team it's the same team. Leadership is all very much the same, but a completely different group of guys on track. So my engineer and the mechanics and stuff like that, but they're a really, really cool group of guys, very similar to the F3 team. So, I really enjoy working with them. And I think, with how the test went, I think we were quite strong. So there's definitely all positives on that side of things going into the season.
How much are you looking forward to this weekend's New Zealand Grand Prix? A place that you know well, obviously, but usually under pressure. This time the pressure is going to be on other people, but it's going to be quite a spectacle. I mean, you've got the greats of the greats. Are you a bit jealous?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to do this, and I'm definitely, as the weekend comes closer, I'm definitely getting a little bit more disappointed that I'm not doing it. But no, it'll be really cool. I got two of my really close mates that are racing, so I have the opportunity to work with them too and sort of coach the team, which is going to be cool. So I'm excited to watch, but I know when I am there I will be disappointed not to be in the car. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, normally I hate watching anyway, so at least I'll be involved in some way, and I can still experience it a little bit, but it definitely will be a shame not to be driving.
So who specifically will you be trying to help out?
So I'll be working with the whole team. So I'll be coaching all the drivers in M2, as far as I'm aware at this stage. But my two close mates are Matthew Payne and Caleb Nata. They're in the same team as well, so they'll be up against each other, fighting each other for the championship. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm excited for both of them. It's a massive opportunity, one that they've obviously seen me do in the last couple of years, and now they have the same opportunity. So I'm excited for them.
Rodin, how exciting is that to have them on board and as a sponsor for F2? And what does that mean physically?
It's massive. Sorry.
And there they are. Go ahead. What does that mean to have a New Zealand company on board like Rodin, and what will they be doing?
Yeah, it's massive. Obviously, Rodin I've known David now for the last couple of years. And the first time I met him, I got to drive on his track in a Formula 3 car. So I've been looking at this FZ, the Formula 1 car that he's making for a couple of years now, and I finally get the opportunity to drive it. But in terms of what he's doing for me this year, he's basically making this year possible, which is massive. Without David and Rodin, we wouldn't be able to race this year. So it's a huge opportunity for me, and hopefully I can spend a lot more time now down at his facilities and do as much as I can for him and his track as well, and the cars he's developing, because it's pretty cool what he's doing, something that you don't see anywhere else really in the world.
And can you see yourself developing his car, or being part of that development?
I'd love to be. Any time I'm home, definitely it'd be something that I'd be super interested in. It just depends on where everything fits in with the racing stuff.
Finally, Liam, obviously we're going to put this out for the Grand Prix or before it, but give us an expectation of what your fans in New Zealand, as a former champion of the Toyota Racing Series, should be expecting, if you will. What expectations are you putting on yourself for both DTM and F2?
I think for F2 we have a solid shot at doing really, really well this year, and I think as long as we put the focus on the right stuff and the testing, we'll find out whereabouts we are. But the goal is the championship this year, and for DTM that's going to be a completely new learning curve for me. It's something that I'm going to have to get used to over the testing, and once I've done that, I'll work out whereabouts I need to work on, and then try and work on those points for the season. But I think both championships we have a really good opportunity with the teams that we're with, so I'm excited.
Last but not least, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you the simple question, which a lot of people are going to ask you: who's going to win the 66th Grand Prix?
Kenny Smith.
That is sitting on the fence. Come on, give me a real quote.
Well,
no, give me an idea of what you'd like to see, because Gaunt's there. Vanderdrift is my kind of my God, he's got all, the experience and sharpness to go all the way. But then who knows what Van Gisbergen, who knows?
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I've been thinking about this a bit quite honestly, because you have these the young kids are doing the full championship. These guys have done quite a lot of testing now. They're fully ready for it, and then you got the all stars coming in who obviously have the experience and where they are because of how good they are. So they're going to jump in with less experience, less time in the car, but I think it should be pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised if the All-Stars don't just run away with it. I think that the younger guys who are doing the full championship, I think they'll be right in there with Van Gisbergen, with Dan Gaunt. Van der Drift, I know he's really, really quick in the FT60. So I call it. I have no idea, honestly.
Now I know you're going to be a Formula One driver because you haven't answered my question. Who is going to win the 66th Grand Prix? Come on!
I really have no idea. I'd just be putting a name out there. It's really, I don't know. It's really hard. They're all really, really good.
The truth is, and I'm not going to put you on the spot. The truth is, and I know that it is a lottery. It doesn't matter whether you get superstars or 17-year-olds. It's on the day. It's such a big pressure. And I think even these very experienced racers will feel that pressure that you had.
For sure. It's the Grand Prix is always a race that throws in random action. I remember my first Grand Prix was crazy. We had like 4 red flags in the race. In the end, only like 8 cars finished the race. It was crazy. So every year it's different, and it has a lot of crazy action. So it's definitely, you have to be in the right place at the right time. It does take luck, as like a championship does. But in terms of who the quick guys are, there's definitely a few of them. I think that this first week in the racing should be really, really cool.
Well, listen, Liam, great talking to you on the eve of the next Grand Prix and also before you head back to Europe. We're all behind you. We're all wishing you well, and we're all watching in the Toyota Racing Series and, of course, around the world. So thank you so much, Liam Lawson. Best of luck in both DTM and in F2, and fly the flag for New Zealand.
Will do. Thank you very much.